Guys, it's Kate and I hope you're having a great day. I'm here with my Princeton Summit 3/4 inch flat brush, my Mei Liang palette, and some B watercolor paper, and I am going to be doing some negative painting today. So I'm actually going to start with a little bit of a yellow brown, and I'm going to put it into my mixing tray so that we can get a nice kind of light color, but something just very rich and warm. And this is going to be our base layer for the watercolor. I'm going to get plenty here so that I can make sure I've got enough to cover my whole page. And I'm going to water it down quite a bit so it shows up kind of light. And I think that should be pretty good. Now what I'm also going to be using is this Daler Rowney Aquafine Gold. So I'm going to start with my base layer of this yellow sienna and that aquafine. So I'm going to use my spray bottle and add a few squirts to my paper just to moisten it up a bit. And I'm going to start applying this paint. And we have a really nice sort of light yellowish orangish brown background, and this is going to go nicely with that gold. Now the gold in this jar is kind of a light color, and I don't know that it will show up on the paper by itself except for the sparkle, so I do want a bit of a toned background. So I'm just using my brush to spread it pretty evenly, and then I'm going to go into this gold and add a few drops right to my paper. And this is going to give us a really nice base. And I'm just going to spread this out with my brush right in with that paint. And when this dries, we'll have a nice shimmery surface. I'm going to add just a little bit more, just to make sure we get a nice base coat there. I really want to have that sparkle, so I'm just going to make sure that we get it everywhere. And with our glazing layers, when we do our negative painting, it will probably reactivate a little bit and show in some of our other layers too, but not quite as much as the first one. So I'm going to let this dry and we'll be right back. Okay, we are all dry, and you can see we have a beautiful golden shimmer on this paper. Now this Daler Rowney Aquafine, this is watercolor ink, and it does reactivate in water just like regular watercolor. It's not like the acrylic inks that dry permanent. And I also have some of those. So I've got this pearlescent. This is the same brand, but this is permanent when it goes down versus this, which can reactivate. So you can use these with your regular watercolor if you want to, mix it in or whatever you like. But just to give you some extra info there, because there are two different products that they have, at least that I know of. And so just depending on what you grab, it might not dry permanent. The Aquafines do not. So I'm going to come in here and I want to make 3 different layers. So this is layer 1, and I grabbed my pencil because I'm going to sketch in what I want to paint around. And so for that, I am going to make some leaves. I really wanted some nice golden leaves here, just on a little stem. And I'm going to do a, you know what, I was going to do a light sketch, but I really want you to be able to see it. So I'm going to go darker. Now you don't have to do this on whatever you are going to draw. So I'm going to make a stem here coming down, and it's going to get a little bit wider toward the bottom. And I'm going to start with my first leaf. And I kind of want it to come off the page a bit, just like that. And then I'm going to bring my stem up more and kind of get it a little bit narrower. And I'm going to add my second leaf. And I'm going to have it have a kind of a fat bottom. I'm going to make these kind of fun shapes. And then I'm going to have the last one end right on the page, and this is going to be the largest one. Just like that. So this is going to be our basic leaf. And so now that I've got my sketch in there, now I can go and add my next layer of paint. So this is my lightest color that's going to be on this paper. My next color is going to be one level down. And my darkest layer, I really want to be a very dark Payne's gray / black. And so I'm going to go between those, and I'm going to put the color that I want my second set of leaves to be, because after I add this layer, I'm going to add some background leaves to the main branch. And so that one is going to take on whatever color I add to my second layer here. So just choose accordingly. For my second layer of leaves, I really want to use an olive green. So that is the color that I am going to add to my entire background here. So I'm going to mix some up in my palette and get it going so that we can add this to our background. And I'm going to start painting around my stem. Now, it's going to help if you kind of keep your bead of water going and go pretty quickly, because that will help eliminate any sort of backflow and anything like that you might have. If you want kind of a smoother finish without a lot of puddling, just keep a good bead going, keep working wet, and work toward the outside so that you're not leaving a lot of water sitting on your paper in random spots, because every time you lift up your brush, you're going to leave water on your paper. And so if you keep that to the outside where you're going to be having it hit your brush again, that's where you can kind of keep your bead. See that dark bit of water there? I can just keep working on that. And then as I lift my brush at every end, you can see it leaves water where it lands. So I'm just going to work quickly, and that will help eliminate it, but I'm always going to come back to that bead. If you need to turn your paper, you can, if that makes it easier to kind of get in some of your curves. And working with a moist brush really helps. You can grab whatever brush feels most comfortable to you. I am picking one that I can cover a lot of ground quickly, but if yours is more detailed, you may find it easier with a smaller round brush or a script liner or anything to get in those smaller areas. All right, so I've got my first negative painting layer done. Now this leaf shape here compared to these two is kind of funky, so I'm actually going to edit that right now. I'm going to bring this in a little bit more like that and have it come off the side. And I think that looks a lot better, and I might even narrow it a bit down here. And I think that's much better. So I'm going to let this dry completely before we add our next layer. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back and we are completely dry. I'm going to give you a quick close-up so you can see the finish on this. So we have the very sparkly leaves, but a little bit of that shimmer is also coming through this olive green, but it's just a little bit more muted, which I really like. This is going to be a really interesting painting when we finish. So I'm going to do my third layer now. Now these, I want to continue with the leaves, but these leaves I really want to be my focal point, and this is going to be the brightest part of the painting and right in front. So what I'm going to do next is add some more leaves, but they're going to be kind of in the background. They're going to be this olive green color, and I'm going to also make them smaller so that they don't compete with this main piece up front. So I'm grabbing my pencil again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in a stem, but I'm not going to be leaving it negative painted. I'm only going to negative paint around the leaves, and then I'm probably going to come back in later with a marker to finish out the stem. But I am going to put it here for reference so that I can draw my leaves properly. So I'm going to make some sort of longish strips of leaves kind of coming through and curling behind the ones I've got here. I might have that one coming this way, and maybe a little branch coming off of here and coming up here through the back, and maybe a little branch coming off of here behind this leaf and coming off of this side, and then maybe one kind of coming from this direction and then coming out the bottom. And so we've got a little sort of continuous branch with some leaves, and I'm going to make these smaller. And so I'm just going to scatter these around just like this. And then sketch in where they are going to go. All right, I like that. So for the background color, what I'm going to do is grab some Prussian blue, and I'm going to mix plenty of this so that I don't have to re-blend the color, and I can just go over the whole background. So I'm going to go into this Prussian blue, get plenty of pigment out here, and I'm also going to go into my black and darken it up a bit. So it's going to be a really nice dark black blue. I'm going to add some water, a little bit more pigment. I want to make sure I've got plenty to last for this whole sheet, because if I reblend it, I'm not going to be able to make it exactly the same. I think that should be good. If it's not, I guess we'll be reblending. I'm just going to go ahead and add some more water to this, some more Prussian blue, and hopefully that'll be good. And I love this color. That's a really nice color. I think it'll look good over these leaves. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So I'm just going to start in here and trace around these leaves and still try to work quickly. I'm working with my round brush this time, but I don't want it to take me forever to paint this. I want it to not have a lot of that cauliflower effect, so I'm going to work quickly. I'm going to re-dip as needed and keep going. All right, I finished my background. I only had to remix once for this corner here. I did add a little bit of water as I went, and so we kind of have a nice multi-toned background, and then we have a nice bit of low to medium contrast with our background leaves. So they don't take away from the front, but it just adds some nice interest to that second layer. And then our third layer is the dark layer. So I'm going to let this dry, and then we're going to come back in and do some pen work and finishing touches, and then we'll be able to call this done. Be right back. All right, I'm back, and our third layer of paint is dry. So I'm going to finish this up with some extra doodles and details. So I grabbed my gold Posca marker and a couple of fine liners. I think I'm going to use the 005, which is my smallest tip. And so for this, I want to add some more bold gold to these big leaves. So what I'm going to do is outline them, add some doodles to the inside, and then I'm going to take my very, very fine pen, and I'm using fine so that it kind of fades to the background like my other leaves, and I'm going to just go over the outlines and the stem that kind of connects them all. So I'm going to start with the Posca, and I'm going to first outline all of this around the edges. And this will just add a little bit of extra sparkle, and also will give us a little more detail, and it's going to be kind of subtle. And I'm just kind of going right between the lines. I'm kind of covering up that paint line and going over my original pencil mark. Okay, I've got all my leaves outlined now. I'm going to add some detail to these leaves. I'm going to make a few little sort of bubble shapes. And I'm going to make them smaller and further apart as we go toward the outside of the leaf. All right, so we've got our leaves done. Now I'm going to grab my fine pen and start doing these little stems. So I can see very faintly my original pen mark, or pencil mark, I should say. And so I'm just going to follow that first and get my stem drawn in. And you can see it's a very thin line, and it adds some extra contrast there, but it's not kind of taking over the whole painting. It still sort of fades to the background, and that's exactly what I want here. So I'm just making sure I get a good line. And then I'm going over where I need to. I'm not worried about trying to make it perfect. I just want to make sure that I am drawing over the pencil mark. It helps me to pull the pen toward me, so if you need to turn your paper, you should, and you can. This is such a fine tip. I feel like it skips a little bit, so I have to go slow. All right, our fine liner's down, our gold ink is down, our watercolor's dry, so I'm going to give you a close-up, and this whole thing is just a little bit shimmery. Maybe you can see it in the camera as I move it, but I'm going to give you the close-up, and I love how this one turned out. I love the greens and the golds. They're just so pretty, and I love how this one looks, and then there's the sparkle. So I hope you enjoyed following along with this video today. You try something like it. Negative painting with watercolor is a lot of fun, and there's so much stuff you can do. I happen to really love leaves, but there is a ton of stuff that you can paint. So if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep creating. Bye.